The number of domestic violence homicides that took place in Virginia between 1999 and 2007 was 1,232. This is from a new report released by the Virginia Department of Health. In that 9-year period, about 1 out of 3 homicides in Virginia was related to domestic violence. And joining us now to discuss the issue is Christy Van Oudenhove, co-director of the Virginia Sexual and Domestic Violence Action Alliance. Christy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Bob.
Does this report break any new ground for you?
This report does break some new ground. We get to look at 9 years' worth of data and see what some of the trends are and what's happening across the state.
And what trends are you seeing?
One of the most disturbing trends, perhaps, is looking at the racial breakdown and seeing that there's a much higher rate of intimate partner homicide for African American women than for Caucasian women. And it really raises the question of what do we need to do better when we're working in African American communities. Another thing that we saw and that has become a trend is that the majority of these cases, there's some intervention, there's some knowledge on the part of the community and maybe even the criminal justice system of the domestic violence prior to it reaching the point of a homicide. So it tells us there's more we can be doing in the intervention.
Overall, is there a trend in domestic violence homicides in Virginia?
It's a great question. We look at the data and we see in 1999 there were 72 homicides. In 2007 there were 51 when we just look at intimate partner deaths. And we want to think that we've had an impact and we've brought it down, but actually as you look at each year, it goes up and down over those years. If we haven't had a consistent trend downward, it's peaked back up a couple times. So we still have some work to do to really be bringing it down overall.
Well, what is being done in prevention of domestic violence in Virginia?
So there are 2 ways that we work toward prevention, and one of them is working where there's already been an incident of domestic violence or family violence in a family and trying to prevent another one. And then another one is working with communities to try to prevent individuals from ever becoming a perpetrator or a victim, trying to prevent the violence before it stops.
What else would you say needs to be done to lower the incidence?
One thing we need to do is to work better in our communities across communities so that there are consistent messages from victim advocates, from the criminal justice system, from the education system, from people who work with youth, to all be working together and to all be giving some consistent messages about how we can protect our youth and what we can do for people when there is domestic violence happening in their families.
Does the holiday season pose a higher risk for domestic violence?
Any time, and the holidays are one of those times when we spend more time together in the home with families and when there's a little bit of economic tension. There's an elevated risk for violence happening. And sometimes we don't see that right at that point in time. What we see it is in the wake of the holidays when people are calling for help. But we really encourage family members to pay attention and help to diffuse and prevent domestic violence during the holiday season.
Well, in speaking of prevention, if someone who's listening knows of a situation, a family member, a friend, or whatever, is there somewhere where they can point them to go for help? Like you mentioned something about, battering cases and trying to prevent another instance. Where does somebody direct somebody, hey, you need to get help, go here?
Great question. We have in Virginia a toll-free 24-hour-a-day hotline, 1-800-838-8238. We're there whether you're a victim looking for resources, whether you're a perpetrator looking for resources, whether you're a family or a friend who just wants to know what to do and how you can be helpful.
Okay. All right, very good. Well, Christy Van Oudenhove, co-director of the Virginia Sexual and Domestic Violence Action Alliance, I want to thank you for joining us.
Thanks you so much.